Welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you simple steps to using my award-winning Bangle Weaver tool here. And we're going to be upcycling or repurposing your old tights or pantyhose. And as we would say, don't waste it, weave it. So let's go down to the beading board and let's have some fun. So here we have two of these gorgeous bangles that I have made purely from tights, pantyhose, call them what you will. This one over here, the black one, is made from some sparkly tights, and I was able to make 6 bangles out of 1 pair of sparkly tights. And this one over here is made from pure sort of light tan tights. Now I just want to break this down a little bit for you just to show you exactly what goes into a bangle. Okay, I will use this beige coloured one here. So here is the wires, which I use Beadalon's beading wire. It gives you a little bit more stability when working with a stretchy material to use a base of wire. I've then sandwiched the wonderful shiny pantyhose in between it, a little bit more wire, and then I have replaced the warps, which as you can see have been beaded with size 8 seed beads on either side to make them a little bit more frilly, a little bit more stand out, a little bit more beautiful. And then I have put this rather exquisite flower on the front of it. All very simple to do. The flower is sewn on because it's so simple to sew through, because of course I'm only using pantyhose or tights. So what I'd like to do now is to show you all the different materials that you will require. If you're interested, we sell a flower pack or a crystal flower pack online. If you're not and you've got some goodies in your stash, brilliant for you. Right, okay, I will be using a pair of snub-nosed pliers, a pair of wire cutters and a pair of crimpers. I will also be using, at the same time, 2 rolls of Beadalon's luscious 49 strand wire. This is a 0.36 inch or a 0.91 millimeter gauge. You can use a lesser gauge, and you can indeed use 19 strand Beadalon wire to do this. I'm also using a bit of wildfire to tack my tights toes together and a beading needle because I've got a plentiful supply of them. You could use plain cotton instead. I like to use some kumihimo spools, which I twist and twist and twist my tights onto, and they help me to weave without getting in a big tangle. I like to use the spool tamers on the Beadalon wire. It stops the wire jumping off. And I think the last couple of items, I can show you a load of crystals, but you've seen them on the actual bead, is Beadalon have got these wonderful new large wire crimps. Now, when you're using a thicker wire, your average crimp doesn't work. So what I do is I normally will use one of these and I will crimp it, and once I've crimped it, I then chop off the remainder of it, and it helps me to keep my 2 wires together at the beginning. And last but not least, I use this wonderful bodkin. It's got 2 eyes, and that stops the wire slipping out when you're re-warping. I hope you can see the 2 eyes here. This particular needle is made by Prim, and I have personally found it to be the most useful one for what I'm looking for. And of course, today I'm going to be using a little bit of sparkly tight here. That's it, that's all you will need. So how to start your weave. I like using 2 rolls of wire at the same time. However, you could, if you wish to, just pull off a length of say 4 meters and roll it onto some kumihimo bobbins. I have put one of my spool tamers onto this wire, and quite simply, you can see how it works. I put the wire through the hole in the middle, the elastic goes around the spool like this, and you're good to go really. Now this one, because the wire is further down, I need to tighten up this particular spool tamer. Hold on, there we go, so that it's actually close to the wire, and then it feeds the wire out of the spool. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to crimp the two of these wires together. As I said, because I'm choosing, you can use a lot thinner wire if you want to, but because I'm using fairly thick wire on this one, because I am using tights or pantyhose, I must remember to call them both things, I will use this very special crimp tube to put them together. Right, I'm trying to put this one in. If you angle cut your wires, it makes your life an awful lot easier, and these crimp tubes go up to quite big sizes. So what I've done is I put one wire all the way through. I'm going down onto the second notch here in order to crimp my wires together. There we go. I've made an indentation in here. I'm now going up to the top one to roll the two together, and then I am going to cut off the remainder of the tube here. Woo! There we go. They always fly all over the place here. And then I'm good to go. I'm good to start my weaving. I'll move those tools out of the way. I have set my bangle weaver on the widest bangle because I'm using something thicker. I'm going to the start mark here, the little niche here. I'm going to pop I'm going to pull a bit out of the spool on both of the wires, and I'm popping it over where the nick is on the bangle weaver, and I'm going to weave. Now I weave to the left, folks, okay, because I'm cack-handed, as my mother used to say. I'm left-handed. And when you weave to the left, normally one wire goes under and the other one goes over. And I weave by pushing this one under, and then this one becomes the back one. It's a bit like plaiting, okay? But your middle doesn't change. So that one goes behind and the top one goes under. So the top one that was over the top now becomes the one that goes behind, and then this one goes under. Now, I'm going to keep going to the left here. If you are a right-handed person, instead of pushing this one under, I have no idea why this happens, it must be something to do with the brain, but right-handed people tend to weave with the second one going over. It doesn't matter as long as you are consistent. So either always go under or always put one spool over, but there is a slight twist in the weave as you go, and that's what gives you a really beautiful even weave. Now I would recommend that if you're going to use tights or pantyhose, that you do about 4 or 5 rows of weaving with wire before you use your pantyhose. So I have almost done one full circle, as you can see, with my wires here, and I have got back to the beginning here. And I'm now going to stop frame here and do the next 4 rows rather speedily and show you where I get to before I actually add in the pantyhose. So what I'm going to show you now is how you actually introduce the tights and pantyhose into your weave. So as you can see here, I've done 5 rows. You can tell that because you come back to the niche and you can count literally 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up there, okay? And I have crimped off the end here, and I've tucked it behind the warp stick as I have with the bottom one. Now when you're using your tights or pantyhose, what you have to do is chop the legs off them basically, and then you have to basically look at it, see the thickness of the material. This is a half of one leg literally, so that is going to be far too thick. What I would therefore do is I would cut this into a strip, so you'd get 4, out of one leg, so you get actually 8 bangles out of 2 legs. What I have done here is I have taken the legs and I have twisted and twisted and twisted, okay, until it starts to do that. Can you see how it's curling up on itself? Right, let's bring the bangle weaver back here. Dun, dun, dun. Hold on, I'm looking for my little nick. Right, here's my little nick. Hello little Nick, and I'm going to pop this over the, oh hello, see, it's been very badly behaved, isn't it? Right, let's do it here like that, okay? And in essence what you're doing is you are twisting both sides of the tights away from the bangle weaver, okay? And then I'm just going to start weaving. But you can see the benefit of having pre-twisted means that the weave works so much better. And as I'm going round, it's also creating, because I've twisted both of them in the same direction, it's creating a sort of a rope effect, which is very attractive to look at, and also provides a lovely even weave. You know, if you're looking to weave with something that is, how can I put it, fluffy, like I've made some bangles out of recycled sari silk, then you will have a slightly different looking weave, equally as beautiful. There we go. Now this one's come slightly untangled, so it's good for you to see that. So all of these different materials, which we now say, don't waste it, weave it, are incredibly fascinating to work with. And it's worthwhile just looking at something, seeing if it can be twisted, and seeing if you can weave it with it. So there we go. I've already done one round with this. I would suggest that when working with tights or pantyhose, you'll probably only need to do about 3 or 4 rounds, but it will compact when you start to rewarp your piece. So I'm going to say au revoir again, go away. I'm going to finish putting in my pantyhose and stockings, and then I'm going to start doing the top half of this here on the top. And I'll come back to you when I've completed that weave there on top of the pantyhose. To finish off the pantyhose, all you do is simply get back to the beginning and put a couple of stitches in and cut away the excess. Okay, I am now going to show you how you sew in the ends of the tights. My video mistress, who is in command of everything, said to me I really should do. So here we go. As you can see, I'm holding the end bits of the tights here, which I've got in my hand. I've got back to the beginning, I know, because I'm by the nick here, and I've literally just attached a needle and thread to it, and all I'm doing is some very rudimentary sewing here, because you won't see this at all. And I'm sewing this to the piece below. Now, also, something else that I would like to share with you is that you don't have to join the next lot of wire onto the tights, because everything is compressed. Let me just find my scissors, which are here, stealthily at my side. What I will do once I've started sewing, and I know it's not all going to untwist, is I'm just going to cut the end of my tights off like that, very simply. Okay, and I'm just going to pull that back and tuck it down here slightly. I'm sorry, I've just got to turn this up this way rather than on its side. But literally, you're never going to see this sewing. It doesn't matter how appalling. I shouldn't really be saying this, it's very naughty of me. You should sew beautifully and neatly, but it doesn't matter how appalling your sewing is, because you won't see it, because once the warp goes in, you will be compressing this. So there we go. I have now sewn those ends together very basically. I'm going through the back here. I'm just going to go over to hold that little back bit in and through here. Okay. Et voila. This is now done. Right. So now all you do quite simply is you put your crimped wire over here. Now if you're finding it difficult to crimp this very thick wire, which perhaps I was a little bit overzealous in using, you can actually strip it back a little bit and take some of the plastic off to make it thinner. So you reintroduce your wire, and all you do quite simply is you do another 5 rows of weaving. One goes under, one that went under goes over the back. You can see what I'm doing here, can't you? I hope. Anyway, very simply, you'll do this another 5 times, and you have finished the weaving part of your bangle. All you will have to do then is to rewarp it and then decorate it with those gorgeous crystals on the front of it. And there you will have your bangle. So I'll come back to you in a minute. So here we have our beautiful bangle. We finished weaving it. All the little mucky bits here, which will be beautifully covered with our flower when we finish. As you can see, can't see a single join here, will be covered. Now what I'm going to show you is how you rewarp this bangle and how this bit and this bit and this bit becomes a wonderful sandwich that's joined. What you need to do first of all is you need to take off all of the little bungs or stoppers from the bottom, and I like to put them on the top of each one of the warp sticks on the top. So I find the quickest way of doing it. Some people, I've watched my colleagues that do a demo of this, and they actually push it up and let them drop off, but I don't think it's a good way, and actually you'll lose a lot of your warp sticks. Now hold on, let me just put my wire there. So can you see I'm just using the pad of my thumb to push this up and push all the way around there. There we go. And then it makes it very simple to just pull all the warp sticks off the disc all the way around. You only have to do this when you're making thicker bracelets. I have cheated, folks, and I have actually managed to rewarp a bracelet by pushing the work up the warp sticks. But when you're making thick bangles, I do think it's a very sensible thing to do, to actually do precisely what I have done here. Otherwise, what you find is that your weave falls off the top end. Now this isn't too deep a bangle here. I could possibly have made it a lot deeper or broader, but as you can see, it doesn't take very long to put the tops on here. So I shall just finish doing this all the way around. Okay, so here we are again. I have replaced all 21 tops there now, and you can see the bangle is kind of in the middle, and we are ready to warp the bangle. Now I have to tell you, I have probably got here about 2.5 meters of wire, and here's my needle. Now you will find out precisely why I like a double-eyed needle. So I've gone through one side, I've gone through the other, and can you see it doesn't slip very easily at all? Can you see? There we go, excellent stuff. And what I'm going to do is I am going to run the needle parallel to each warp stick. I'm going to push it through like this, and then I'm going to pull it out the other side. Now I might actually find that it's very useful to use my pliers to get it to come through. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I am actually going to put the bangle, I like to work with it in the middle of the wires, and it won't actually become apparent to you my reason for doing this until actually you almost come to the end, which is one of those ironies of quirks of fate. Right, okay, gosh, that was pretty darn good there, because I managed to get it in the middle. So let me just put this back into my wire, back into my needle, and then I'm quite simply going to take this side and I'm going to go up and down and up and down and up and down. There we go. Right parallel to where the needle runs is the warp. And what we're doing here, oh come on, is we are replacing the stick with wire. Now if you were to take the wire out before, let me just push these things in here, and I probably wobbled my camera appallingly badly. Apologies for the delirium tremens of my camera here. My camera person here is going to get very cross with me. Never mind. think is really very nice, honestly. There we go. You know, and use a pair of pliers. I really love this particular pair of pliers. I think they're probably meant to be for working with jump rings and doing chainmail, because they haven't got such a long nose. Right, can you see I'm going up there and down there and up there and down there? And then what you really need to do, you can go around the whole of the piece just doing this with the left side, and then you cross over with the right side. But what I'm going to show you is what you want to have at the end. Now, if you're purely making a wire piece, you may not need to do crossover wires, but if you are making a piece which has material in, I would recommend that you cross your wires over like this. So I'm going to show you now how you would treat it. So you can go all the way round and back to the beginning with this one, and then you can come back and do it with the other one. Now, if you want to bead these warps, by all means, you thread the beads on before you put each warp back through here. So I'm just going to pop this one back through here. You can tell that the needle is very helpful to me here in just popping this back through here. There we go. I also find that it's useful to bring the wire in front of the warp sticks here. Now, when you have finished rewarping, you may wish to use the wires to pull together the bangle a little bit more. You may not, but I find it very useful to do that. There we go. Bring that ahead of here. Use your hands. Fantastic, okay. And you can see what I mean, because if I pull now on either side, it pulls this in, okay, and that comes out slightly. So I'm just going to go through here. Now, I also have another little nifty trick that perhaps I shouldn't, if you're a beginner, I shouldn't really share it with you. But I will, because I'm naughty like that. There we go. That goes in here. Right, so can you see the benefit of crossing over? I can now pull this together, and it helps me to give it a good tension all the way around. Don't worry about this, you will not see it afterwards. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rewarp the whole bangle before I take the sticks out, and then I'll come back and show you the next process. Okay folks, now you will see I have literally just finished warping. I also went off and had some very nice lunch in between too. And I'm putting my needle through the last one. Now, since I have created this tool, I have learned more and more about it every time I use this, as I'm sure you guys will as well. And I found at the end, if I quite simply just go through the next two holes again and double up, I don't have to crimp at all. So in the instructions, I might well have said at one juncture that you had to crimp at the ends. I find this methodology is incredibly useful. Oh, never mind, drop the needle. Never mind, it doesn't matter. It can lay on the floor for a second and have a rest. It's been working very hard rewarping my thing. And there we go. I now have the bangle, and I'm now ready for this very exciting stage where I quite simply take out all of the warp sticks. So, et voila. And as I take them out, what I normally do is I reset up my bangle weaver, which I always push it through a little bit more. You might recall this from the beginning of how to set up your bangle weaver. I reset it up as I go. I won't do this now because it will take far too long, although the temptation is there. And I'm going to pop back to you in a second when I've taken all the warps out. Now is the part that I love the most of making these bangles, and that is the embellishing of them. I think of them as little baby canvases personally, things that I can put my own special mark upon. Now I've got some Swarovski 8mm bicone beads which have one little hole from left to right. And I use these to form the centre of the flower. And all I have done is I've used a bit of thread here and I'm sewing. This is the benefit, of course, of repurposing your tights and pantyhose. I am embellishing my bangle weaver in through this lovely soft material, which is brilliant for sewing onto. There we go, I've sewn one of these on. If you are interested, I do have kits just to make these lovely flowers with, and they are fab. You know, you'll get 10 of these rather huge teardrop crystals and 4 of the Swarovski crystals here. So I put one on and I'm going to pop on another 3, and I will come back and show it to you when I've got 4 of these on and when I start sewing on the teardrops. So here what I'm doing is, you can see I've put the 4 little centre sort of parts here, which are sort of, I suppose, what you would call the pollen of the flower. There you go. And now I am sewing on the petals of the flower. Now these divine teardrops, and incidentally a lot of the things I'm using now are things that are probably more accessible from my jewellery days, so you might not be able to get them at other places, but you might. Right, so you can see the teardrop here has a hole from left to right or right to left, however it is that you're seeing this, and that is where I sew through. I really quite like, now, oh, the other thing to be said is, of course, these are half AB coated, so you can sew some on one way and some on another way, because they are reflective on one side and not on the other. That's not to say, however, that they have all been dipped in the same direction, so that's, I think, possibly the joy of using these particular crystals, which are made by Preciosa. So I often use a mixture of Preciosa and Swarovski. Where I can't find a Swarovski that does what I want it to do, I'll look at Preciosa, and vice versa. But there are so many wonderful, wonderful beads and baubles in this world, most of which I've had the privilege of using at some juncture. So I normally like to do about 2 or 3 stitches through this bead so that it sits exactly where I want it to. You can see you can kind of hold it down with your thumb, and quite honestly all I'm doing is I am literally just going in and out of the bead. See how nicely though they sit next to each other. I shall just do one more and then we will go back to, and here's one I made earlier. There we go. I want to put this one in place because this one goes right in front of that little crimp bead that I used. And I just want to show you why. Sorry, I keep probably moving out of frame. Am I in frame now? Goody, goody. I just want to show you why I like to embellish things right near the beginning, because then all of your workings, as if by miracle, disappear, and you just have the most fantastic, professionally made, beautiful looking bangle that you have woven yourself. Oh, come back here. Sorry, it's actually leaping out of the hole. And of course you might well imagine why I can't see this very well, because I am working on black. And if you are working on any colour black item, I strongly recommend that you're in a very, very good light, but for the purpose of filming, if it's too light, it strobes the camera. So we wouldn't want to do that to you. And you know, please let me know how you get on. I would love to see the works of art that you create. It's really very heartening to see someone else make something with something that you've invented. It's quite amazing, really. It's rather like when I was a jeweller. One of the biggest kicks I ever got was actually out of seeing people who had purchased my jewellery. So the same thing goes here. I love seeing what you all create out there, because it's a family of creators. We are but there to support each other. There we go. So I've now sewn on 5 of those, and then once I had sewn on the next 5, I would get something that looked like this. Ta-da! And here is one I made earlier, as they say in the classics, and this is what you will end up with. Beautiful, isn't it? And then if you do choose to bead the warping thread, which means you'll have to do it every time you cross over, here's one I made out of a natural colour pair of stockings, or pantyhose, or tights even. Whatever you want to call them, they're rather divine. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.